It's official. UCLA Arizona. It's not dead just yet.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for making this your first listen. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoff season, tournament season, everything winds down, there's boosts and bonuses available daily to all customers. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com. What we got to do as UCLA fans is cheer on this Bruins team, right? Because the big-time rivalry continues on the hardwood. UCLA Arizona, the rivalry has been extended. And this is what we've kind of known for a little bit when John Rothstein was talking to Mick Cronin, when the rumblings were out there, that it seemed more than it was a done deal. Now it's officially inked. The UCLA-Arizona rivalry continues, and it just seemed like it was a matter of time, right? This was just it just made sense. It makes a lot of sense. And what UCLA needed to do was to, especially in basketball, especially men's basketball, they had to, most importantly, get things going and put themselves, this is a part of the November-December schedule. And it should be going forward until further notice, until conference realignment strikes for the 5th billionth time. UCLA should consistently play Gonzaga, Arizona, your cupcakes at home, insert big matchup for TV, insert neutral site, home, road game that's super tough, and then 3 or 4 cupcakes at home. That's how it should be for UCLA year to year. And I know I recently talked about what could be a part of the UCLA basketball schedule, but UCLA Arizona just makes too much sense. Now, it is going to suck that these teams are going to go home and home. The Bruins aren't going to go anywhere near Tucson. Arizona is not coming to Pauley Pavilion. We saw that. We saw the end of that for now over the next 4 seasons. But the new deal that was posted by both teams on with press releases, UCLA, 3 of the next 4 years, will be playing the Arizona Wildcats, once in the state of Arizona, once in Los Angeles, and another time in Vegas as a part of a Las Vegas Hall of Fame series. So what does that mean? Well, looking in, I think Bro Report kind of posted a bit of this schedule this year. UCLA was going to play the Wildcats in Phoenix at the home of the Suns in mid-December. That's going to happen. That's official, right? Mark that on your calendar. December 14th, John Rothstein even already posted that. So we knew kind of the date, where it was going to happen, who it was going to be. That's supposed to be an epic day, right in the midst of college football playoff, right in the middle of all the college basketball games, non-conference rise, after the feast week of games that we get excited for college basketball slate of games. UCLA, Arizona, it's going to feel weird. You're going to want to say Pac-12. We're going to miss our dear beloved Bill Walton coming out there and saying, all these things about the Pac-12 and the Conference of Champions. Instead, UCLA will be playing them in a non-conference game. Then, in the 25-26 year, you're going to have UCLA playing Arizona in Las Vegas. So the next time Arizona, barring a postseason appearance against UCLA, will play UCLA in the state of California, in Los Angeles for that matter, won't be until 27-28 at our neutral site in Los Angeles. And I'm not entirely sure if it says specifically where. It is highly likely that's going to be either at Crypto.com or it'll be at the Intuit Dome, when the Bruins this year are taking on the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and then they return the favor next year to go into Seattle. 2 easy things where you can maybe get the hype up. Instead of playing home and homes, I think these schools should be playing home and homes. That's my one bone to pick with these schools, right? Why are we inking, some neutral site? And I guess it makes a little more sense with Gonzaga. Kentucky did this with the Zags too. Go to a bigger arena, sell that bad boy out, and have a raucous arena, although it's not the same as going into the MacArthur Center, right? Then you go to UCLA, it's not the same as playing in Pauley, although you will get some stars if they're playing in downtown LA or in Inglewood at the new Intuit Dome, new home of the Clippers, which is just about to open to the public in a few days after this podcast is posted. It maybe makes more sense for UCLA to go neutral site because it doesn't really matter home or road sometimes. UCLA on the road, come on, let's go play them at the McHale Center or bring Arizona at home. I know those schools aren't going to do that. They want more neutral site, easier to travel for both games, get more seats, get more fans in those seats. Arizona's going to sell out that Las Vegas game. It is just very, very important that these games are on the schedule. Keep the West Coast rivalries alive because already the media, everything else, East Coast, Midwest, it's already forgotten about. That's why UCLA's at the bottom of the Big Ten when it comes to looking football-wise. We're going to talk what are the most ridiculous predictions football-wise. We'll talk about that at the end of the podcast today. It's already a West Coast bias against the Arizonas and the UCLAs because they haven't won a national championship since the 90s, right? Despite their opportunities to go deep in the tournament or failing to capitalize, despite success in some eyes, meaning Final Fours, national championship appearances, those schools' inability to win a championship, the West Coast has been forgotten about basketball-wise, right? Gonzaga's been so close so many times. It's up to one of those three schools to break this West Coast drought and stop what is a current UConn dominance with Dan Hurley. All right. Now, playing these games, it makes sense. Mick Cronin, Tommy Lloyd, the Arizona athletic director, you got Martin Jeremiah. It just makes too much sense. Now, the fact that they can't play in the 25-26 season, so they play next year, they take the season off afterwards, which only seems right for an NCAA tournament battle against one another, right? That's how it seems like it's been with Gonzaga. They're supposed to play this year, and then the next year they play in the tournament. And then they play this year in the regular season, and then they play in the tournament. That is how it's been with Gonzaga. And it could play out with UCLA and Arizona, who will be competing for the West Regional and now can theoretically be placed 1 and 2 in the regional because they're no longer in the same conference, Big 12 and Big 10. And that's how those teams might be placed up to play in an Elite Eight or match up in a Sweet 16 a lot earlier than they would be because they don't have that conference scheduling and rubric when it comes to making the NCAA tournament bracket, which I think is probably going to have to change now that conferences are slowly shrinking with the Pac-12 evaporating and probably other conferences as well if they eventually even expand the NCAA tournament. So big news, Bruins, Wildcats, that's good for the game of college basketball. It's good for UCLA fans. It's good for Arizona fans, regardless of if they're good that year or not in a couple of years, if it's still Tommy Lloyd, if it's still Mick Cronin. The game of college basketball needs the hype that the Arizona fans, the illustrious history that brings for UCLA basketball, and the bad blood they share in West Coast basketball. Because all we hear is Big East. Yeah, cool. All these other stuff, right? Big 12. And Arizona's going to have some fun games going to Fog Allen, going to Kansas, going to Texas, going into these Big 12 arenas, right? That includes Houston now because Houston's good and back on the college basketball map in the Big 12, which is the best conference in college basketball nowadays. But we can't forget the past and what still generates a lot of passion and anger and dispute when it comes to loving West Coast basketball. It's these two schools. You look at Arizona, you look at UCLA, you bring in Gonzaga. They've been running the show. This team is the team to be. Oh, then it's UCLA, then it's Arizona. That's how it's been the last 25, 30 years. Whether it's been their expected year or not, they tend to make deep runs, come out of nowhere, become a big-name program, or have that year, right? And they've been significant. And UCLA and Gonzaga playing the tournament last couple of times, absolute classics. All right? Absolute classics. They've been running basketball these last few years. Now it's just a matter of can they go and win a championship? Mick Cronin's done what he's needed to do. This game will mark a big game against an Arizona team that brought back Caleb Love, doesn't have Umar Ballo, doesn't have Boswell, but they still will be very talented. And it's a big neutral site game in a different state, limited travel, easy flight there and back for UCLA. Pop over, pop back. No travel, no rest, lots of rest for the weary. And the Bruins will figure out how good they are right away in the month of December with traveling to New York, playing Arizona, playing Gonzaga. I think all those games in North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Arizona are all in the same month. So the Bruins will know right away what the month of December brings for how good they will be in this season with their all the transfers, the freshmen, and the returners. Those roles will be carved out, most likely heading into Big Ten play after those three games. North Carolina, Arizona, Gonzaga, not in that order, but that is what's going to really carve out the roles all these teams and all these players will have. All right. Speaking about roles, UCLA is trying to find who will be their next big role player, next big offensive lineman player, whatever it might be. Let's take a look at some offers the Bruins threw out in the most recent days here on Locked On UCLA. Man, oh man, I love sports, and I know you do too if you're watching this podcast or listening to it. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, fewer sports, no Olympics, no tournaments to turn our eyes to. FanDuel, though, lets us keep the sports going whenever I want, whenever you want. Open the app, dream up bets whenever you want, because FanDuel is letting all customers have a booster bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and make the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, cruising on here into segment 2 of the Locked On UCLA podcast. The Bruins have been doing their best to grow their class of 25. They had a kicker and a punter commits just over the weekend, right at the open practice, and now they're not even going to have another open practice. So for whatever reason, DeShaun Foster opening the practices, keeping them closed, schedules changing, keeping commits in and out. But the Bruins offered a big-time commit opportunity to get a big-time commit. They offered the number one offensive tackle in the country, one of the top 2, top 3 recruits in the country in Jackson Cantwell. 6'7.5", 3 bills, hailing from Missouri, offered by the likes of the Alabama. This is a guy that Alabama, Arkansas, or Florida, probably Georgia nowadays, they would get this guy, offer him, and keep him home. But you wonder, moving forward, does UCLA have the NIL budget? Do they have the buzz with DeShaun Foster, who completely revamped his recruiting team, his recruiting staff, to go emphasize who can go do it? Now the NCAA rules allow for a little bit more for coaches to go do and recruit. DeShaun Foster just doesn't have to go hammer it down as much as his staff can go do. And UCLA can offer more scholarships now, and now they can go offer a project, a 3-star, an opportunity. But a 5-star lineman, that's the next level UCLA needs to get back to, right? They kind of did this during the Jim Mora era where they could get a 5-star D lineman. They can go get an edge rusher. Remember Jalen Phillips for a hot second there for UCLA, getting that 5-star quarterback with Josh Rosen, which was successful in terms of eye-popping number and entertainment when the freshman quarterback played his 3 years at UCLA before going pro. The question is, can DeShaun Foster, is he going to turn into Chip Kelly? Will the resources and how things are playing out in football mean UCLA is going to get greedier, better, and dream higher for recruiting, like offering a Jackson Cantwell, who is the number one offensive tackle in the country currently in the class of 2026 cycle? You know, they're dreaming big, they're dreaming in the future. But one, it all comes down to how does UCLA, it's kind of a 1-2 combo. How much can UCLA do in 24 to build some buzz? And we'll talk more about win-loss totals in a second, but building the buzz, building the hype, seeing a packed-out Rose Bowl, the question is how much blue and gold will be there is one thing. Can they generate a buzz? Can DeShaun Foster with Eric Bieniemy, and now whether the class of 26 kids will have Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator is another question entirely. But can they generate enough buzz as DeShaun Foster has? I know you guys don't like him as the public speaker at the Big Ten Media Days, but something really resonates with these players because they play for him. They're excited. They were super excited when he came to UCLA. The opportunity was there and he took it. And now he's running with what was a terrible 24 class, had to bring that back to, fruition. 25 class that, once it started to get going in June, end of May, into July, he got a string of commits again and again and again to build that class. And now you're addressing special teams. You're addressing units that were somewhat forgotten about by Chip Kelly. You look at what he has going forward, does DeShaun Foster, dreaming after the big offensive tackle. And I'm not even sure Chip Kelly would have even gone after this guy, let alone throw him an offer. I remember reading the article by the LA Times, Ben Bulge, saying, yeah, everything had to go through Chip Kelly. So it was an apathetic recruiting group. Everything had to be appealed, yes. And that means you probably have a little less knuckleheads. But it meant UCLA had a lot less talent. and a lot less dream potential going after a 5-star that maybe at some point could be convinced. Other than Chip Kelly's last-second wooing of Dante Moore with some NIL hype and some Bruin buzz to bring him to UCLA, mostly the Bruins didn't get that big-time guy in Chip Kelly's era. A lot of it came through the portal, underrated running backs, underrated talent like Latu fell into UCLA in Chip Kelly's lap. But DeShaun Foster can't gamble on that anymore when the portal is open to everybody. Chip Kelly somewhat mastered it before it became a huge, huge thing, and as crazy as it is, now I think DeShaun Foster's got to go back to basics. Look at the programs that are out there. They build internally, which means they go get the high school guys. If they need to, they can go to the portal to address some needs and think like Georgia's quarterback right now. You go look at Georgia right now. They got a quarterback that stuck around 5 years to get his opportunity. That's the type of program UCLA needs. They got Justin Martin right now waiting in the wings for an opportunity to start next year. Now, the talk is around town, he's still battling for the lead backup spot with Garber's the clear QB1, but it's guys like that that stick around between multiple regimes, from the Chip Kellys to the DeShaun Fosters, to just get a crack at being the backup and then maybe be the starter and thrive when you've got the big 4-star, 5-star quarterback in Madden Iamaleava coming in next year with his high school teammate in Jace Brown as a receiver. A talented receiving core, right? You want guys to stick around, and it's a lot tougher with money being offered, more scholarship options, greater appeal across the country in crazy environments, right? Obviously, I want to love the Rose Bowl and love UCLA fans, but it's not going to be the same as LSU on a Saturday night, or Penn State in a stripe out, or in an all white out at the Penn State Beaver Stadium, right? It just isn't the same. Now, can UCLA generate the buzz, close hard on the class of 25, which means hit on another big name kid, bring in the portal talent, and prove to those 26 kids this is going to be something that isn't completely awful year 3, right? Because if you're a kid that's sitting there right now, it's 2024, you're going into your junior season of high school, and then by the time you commit, probably into your senior season, or you're going to graduate high school, DeShaun Foster will be in year 3 and preparing for year 3. And that's when the vision is either being realized, although a lot shorter time spans and windows are being given to head coaches. The vision's either going to be realized or won't be right then by DeShaun Foster. And all he needs is time. He really needs time. They gave Chip Kelly a few years. They certainly gave Jim Moore his years. DeShaun Foster is going to need his time to build the infrastructure and convince the rest of the university as they try to figure out how can they be competitive across the country, not just on the field, but what they can offer. You know, the athletics speak for itself. The academics clearly speak for itself. But some athletes, some student athletes are going to look for the dollar sign and how can you get me to the next level? And DeShaun Foster knows how to get there, has the staff to talk about it, but can they offer the same glitz and the glamour that as much as LA is, it's not the same on a college football Saturday across the country in Los Angeles as it is elsewhere. Now, I hope UCLA, yes, they offered Jackson Cantwell. They're going to throw out some more offers. 26 offers will be lobbed out in due time. It's all right. How can UCLA generate buzz, close out the 25 class that proves to these incoming juniors in high school that they should keep UCLA in their minds when they should commit, right? And it's not just local talent. It's those 5 stars across the country that would normally stay in the South or go elsewhere, or to Ohio State or Oregon or Michigan. Go to UCLA. And when DeShaun Foster wins one of those battles and brings 1 to 2, 3 of those kids in, then it's going to get real fun. Not saying that they're going to get this kid Jackson Cantwell. He's on many schools' radars right now. This is the beginning of taking a chance where I'm not even sure Chip Kelly would have lobbed it, really, even taking a serious look at it. But we're going to take a serious look at some of the ridiculous win totals given to UCLA this upcoming year. We could be wrong. They could be wrong. I'm going to tell you why the others are wrong. Next, on Locked On UCLA. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 120 million plus parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All the parts you want and the prices you need, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, cruising on here to segment 3 of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I've seen UCLA as of the recording of this podcast. I forgot the outlet, the seriousness of it. But UCLA, which has been given an over-under total of 4.5 wins, many people in UCLA circles hammering the over with some caution, but hammering the over the 4.5 win total. I know the beloved James Williams, who covers UCLA, I saw they had a Q&A release with him. He hosts Believe in UCLA Football, talked about, hey, I think there's potential they reach 7 wins. And then I saw another post about how UCLA might be 2-10. 2-10 this year? I think that's a little ridiculous. A bad year for UCLA, I'm assuming, is 3-9. Now, who is UCLA going to beat? I'm still perplexed as to who they might beat and who they'll surprisingly beat and who they'll be surprisingly defeated by. I just have a hard time thinking, with so much talent returning in offense, an experienced D coordinator that is going to have his challenges to replace the pass rushing ability of Latu and the Murphy twins from a year ago, and talented players that transferred out, and the mind that was Danton Lynn, we can't sell short Ikaika Malloy and what he's going to do this year. I'm not entirely sure what he might surprise us with, what might be similar to the Danton Lynn philosophy, regardless of what they show in practice. But the competition, the heart, the fire is there. With a lot of last year, super seniors, super COVID seniors on this defense before some of the youth takes over in year 2 in the Big Ten. Now, I'm not sure 2-10 is where UCLA is headed for. That would include the Hawaii game. I'm not sure if you're including a Minnesota game, a Fresno State game, because the other day Fox Sports rated Fresno State as 20 spots better than UCLA. A very outside shot, but an outside shot indeed, to battle Boise State for that group of 5 spots. And I know 50th isn't where you want to be, or 54, but, if you're higher up in that group of 5 rankings and you're challenging for a conference title, that means you're playing for that 12th and final spot in the newly expanded college football playoff this year, up to 12 teams. Now for UCLA, who could be ranked as low as 74, 75, that would mean you're in the range of bowl eligibility 6 wins. And 2 wins just in college football alone, if you have a decent offense and your defense can make some plays, you're going to make something happen, right? You're going to get up for your rivalry game. USC isn't going to be crazy world beaters this year. They're not going to go 12-0. I don't think that's the case. The Bruins, legacy-wise, in recent history, should get up for the Fresno State game, Hawaii, and there's going to be one of either the LSU game, the Penn State game, where they're going to surprise somebody. Maybe not with a win, but with a very close, scary result for the home side. Then there's a bunch of home games, right, where Washington's an unknown team. That's a road game, though. That's an unknown Pac-12 turned Big Ten rival. Road game where new coach, completely revamped roster from last year's national title game, last season's national title game appearance. And while Jed Fish could have things ready, maybe not year 1 if UCLA was to steal a win in Seattle as opposed to a year 2 prior. Then Iowa at home, Nebraska, Minnesota. Those are some unique games where UCLA could rattle off 1 or 2 and turn themselves from that 3 to 4 win team into a 7-win team, surprising 8-win team in a bowl competitor, right? They're going to get to a bowl. You get to 6 wins, it's going to happen. It'll be a little different in the 12-team playoff era, but that's what UCLA is striving for right here, right now. Okay? 2-10 seems ludicrous. I know last year I was thinking it was dumb that UCLA wouldn't make the tournament basketball-wise top 25, and they had their opportunities, but they went under 500. 2-10 just seems super bold because they're not bringing so much new things on offense. They're bringing the X's and O's, but the players are there. The talent is there. As long as the offensive line holds up, keeps going, I'm excited to see how this team moves forward with what they have. And the defense could be ready to surprise. Maybe not surprise like last year's 23 defense, where it was one of the best in the country, but they can surprise and not be one of the most terrible defenses in the country. All right? So I'm excited, just like I hope you're excited for this UCLA team, because they're not going 2-10. I'm leaning more bowl eligibility than I am 3-9, maybe somewhere in between, but probably over that 4.5 win total that is being posted on different places. All right? So get your hands up, get excited, UCLA fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off, saying, go Bruins.